Hey everybody, it's been way too long and I really apologize for that. That's school for you. It's really taken over my life and I really haven't had time to really make any videos for you guys or really just, pay attention to movies in general. But besides that, I actually really wanted to share with something with you real quick. I'm going to tell you about 10 underrated films that in my opinion are still not well known and still need actually attention and need an audience of some sort. Because these movies are just amazing. So starting off with number 10, I have World's Greatest Dad. This is directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, a comedian from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it's starring the late and great Robin Williams. This movie is dark but hilarious, and I'm not really going to give too much away in the plot because that's what drives this movie, but it is about Robin Williams as a teacher who really has a terrible son, and his life is just kind of like mundane and boring. He kind of gets pushed around by his son, and then something happens, and then the story completely goes in a different direction, and things start happening, and he becomes recognized in the community. And honestly, it's one of the most dark and most witty, and also like most satisfying movies I've seen in a long time. The first time I saw this was actually a little bit after Robin Williams passed, and I was kind of blown away because it kind of gave his performance a little bit more depth, because I kind of understood where he was coming from in real life, and I honestly think he put himself into this movie a little bit more. This is the same year I think RV came out, so this is a much better film than that. So definitely check out World's Greatest Dad if you haven't before. It's hilarious, it's dark, but yeah. It's one of those films that you probably should see. Alright, moving on from there, I have a buddy cop movie called The Guard. This is starring Don Cheadle and Brendan Gleeson, two of my favorite actors, especially Brendan Gleeson. This is actually directed by John Michael McDonough. If you see my Bruges poster in the background, I actually talked about that movie last time in my review. I love that film, and I really love the McDonough. I can always say those names wrong. I always love the McDonoughs. And so this is one of those movies that are just, it reminds me, it's reminiscent of Shane Black with a lot of really witty dialogue and banter, and it's one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. It came out in 2011, so it didn't come out too long ago, I guess 6 years, so I guess it was longer than I thought. But this movie is hilarious, and if you haven't checked out this movie, if you can find it anywhere, definitely check out The Guard, because it's one of the funniest movies, and it's definitely a dark comedy as well. Just like World's Greatest Dad, you're actually going to see a lot more dark comedies on this list as we approach number 1. Alright, well, I already talked about this movie already, but I really want to push this movie to death, because I have the film poster, and I also have the movie right here, and I talked about it last time. In Bruges is one of my favorite films of all time. If you haven't seen that movie review, definitely check it out, because this is one of the best dark comedies of all time. Amazing dialogue, amazing story. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it too much, so moving on. Alright, next on the list is What We Do in the Shadows, one of my favorite vampire mockumentaries ever. If you've ever seen Flight of the Conchords, it's made by these guys. I love it. Jermaine's in it. It's one of the funniest things ever. It kind of reminds me a mix between The Office and Flight of the Conchords. And when I'm talking about The Office, I'm talking about the US version. I haven't really actually seen the British version, and yeah, I know. Crucify me. Like you crucify these vampires to kill them. Anyway, this is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It's directed by Taika Waititi. I almost forgot his name, but like he's one of the funniest guys ever. He actually made a movie last year, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, which is a very good movie as well. Anyway, What We Do in the Shadows is a hilarious mockumentary about these 4 vampires, and there's this film crew that's like documenting them in New Zealand, and they're going around and doing their vampire antics, and there's a lot of silly things in this. The person who turns them all into it is a Nosferatu type character. It's a really funny movie, and if you like kind of British or New Zealand humor, you would love this stuff. So definitely check out What We Do in the Shadows. I talked a little bit about him earlier, Shane Black. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is a movie that really is under a lot of people's radar. I know some people who have seen this movie and really stand by it, and I also stand by it. This is starring Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer. This is a hilarious film by Shane Black. It's a buddy cop film. Really about this antics about Gay Perry, aka Val Kilmer, and Robert Downey Jr.'s character, which I cannot recall because I haven't seen this in a little bit. And there's just some really silly things that happen. This is literally The Nice Guys that came out last year. This is pretty much part one of that story, even though it's completely different characters, but like it's the same kind of genre and the same kind of vibe you get. So it's a hilarious film about really crazy antics. Something goes awry, and then these two, who really aren't, you know, meant to be together, have to figure out this problem, and it's a fun time. So definitely check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. All right, moving on from there, I'm gonna kind of stray away from the black comedy, because that's the stuff I really like. But regardless, if you haven't seen Jerome Bixby's Man from Earth, it's worth your time. I really enjoy it, and it's one of my favorite films that really got me questioning a lot of things. And the first time I heard about it, actually, I was at my friend's house. He had his Blu-ray collection. I was looking through his stuff. He's like, yeah, you should check out Man from Earth. And I'm like, oh, this looks weird. It's like a low TV budget movie that really is something special. So I popped this in. I got this probably about a month and a half ago. Popped this in, and first 10 minutes I'm like, oh god, it's a TV movie. Great, here we go. But this is actually more than a TV movie. Once you get past that 10 minutes, the conversation that this man presents. So what happens is, I'll tell you a little bit about it. There's a bunch of college professors. They're all in different departments: biology, anthropology. There's a historian, etc. And what happens is, this one guy, John Billingsley, who's from True Blood, you know, Bill from True Blood. So gay. Anyway, he claims he's a Cro-Magnon from 140 centuries ago, and everyone's like, bull crap. Like, that's not true, and they kind of think he's playing a joke. But what happens is the story unfolds. They keep asking questions. It's actually really, really intriguing. I could not keep my eyes off the movie because of just how interesting the dialogue was and how they bounce off each other. It may be a silly TV movie, but this is one of the underrated gems that a lot of people have never heard of. So definitely check out Man from Earth, because it's a hell of a ride, and it's very fun and stimulating for your thinky parts. This is probably the most recent movie on my list, but I just saw this a couple weeks ago, Wonderboys. I own this copy as a DVD because they never put it on Blu-ray. Damn them. However, Michael Douglas plays this really estranged writer who wrote a very well done book, who's critically acclaimed years ago, and he's trying to figure out his second book, but he can't figure it out because he's got this like writer's block. He's not inspired by anything, and he has a student, because he's also a professor, Tobey Maguire, who's this really weird genius, and there's some crazy antics that happen in this movie. It's also another like kind of dark comedy that I really enjoy. Robert Downey Jr. is his publisher, who's just really annoying and goes out with a transgender person at the very beginning, and then it's like, Tobey Maguire asks, like, does he know? He's like, yeah, I don't know. It kind of switches back and forth, kind of a thing that Michael Douglas said. But it's a hilarious film. It's one of those movies that I'm really happy I actually just saw this movie during a time where I'm actually writing a paper that I'm having intense writer's block with. So this is one of those movies that really just brightened my day, and also just made me think, you know, everything's going to be fine. So yeah, definitely check out Wonderboys, because it's actually a really fun movie that a lot of people don't really remember. So definitely check this movie out. Alright, moving on to more recent films. I'm going to talk about 99 Homes. This is actually a fantastic film that came out a couple years ago with Michael Shannon and Andrew Garfield, and that, in my opinion, is the best Andrew Garfield film, or at least the best performance he's made. And yes, I've seen Hacksaw Ridge, and yes, I've seen Silence, and I actually appreciate him in 99 Homes a lot more. But Michael Shannon almost overshadows him, obviously, because he's an amazing character actor. And I love this story, that this movie came out around the same time as The Big Short, so it's really talking about the housing crisis that happened in the United States in around 2009 area, 2008, 2009. And so it really tells a story about Michael Shannon, who is pretty much the person who comes to your house and says, hey, I work for the state, you're gonna have to get out, and I'm gonna take your house. And this happens to Andrew Garfield early on in the film, and he pretty much is just like distraught, and he's like, I can't support my mother, I can't do all these things. And then eventually he pretty much just takes an odd job with Michael Shannon. Like, one of his enemies becomes one of his like greatest allies, and really he teaches him how to do what he's doing, and it really just, it convolutes, and it's very intense drama that boils at the end. And I really enjoyed the ride on this movie. This is one of my favorite movies from 2015. 99 Homes is one of the best movies I've seen in quite some time, and I actually like it more than Big Short, even though it's a really fantastic film as well, with a bunch of cool actors and actresses. But yeah, definitely check out 99 Homes, because it's definitely a fun ride that a lot of people don't really know about. Alright, going into the foreign language territory, Embrace of the Serpent. I saw this movie about 6 months ago, and it's actually one of my favorite movies that came out last year in 2016. However, this movie I think came out earlier than that in other theaters, 2015 in Colombia. Two explorers in different time periods that are going down into the Amazon looking for this rare plant. It tells a story of this man who is young in one story and old in the other, and they're literally, it's just like, this is a psychedelic kind of black and white trip. This is a movie that's filmed in black and white, and it's gorgeous, and it really just shows you the opposite of the colors of the rainforest, which is something I really appreciated in this movie. But it's literally just, they're trying to find this plant, and they're just going through the ringer. There's a lot of crazy things that happen in this movie, but also gorgeous cinematography, and it's just a lovely film overall, and there's a psychedelic ending to it, and I really enjoyed this movie, and I think that a lot of people really passed this up last year and haven't really checked this out because it's a foreign film, and I don't understand why people, audiences, especially American audiences, really pass up foreign films because it involves reading. They don't go to cinema to read subtitles. So definitely check out Embrace the Serpent if you haven't. It's a fun time. It's kind of a dark movie, but it's definitely a good trip. And finally, in my foreign films, I'm going to talk about Denis Villeneuve's Incendies. This is a film that came out in 2010 and really has a crazy plot twist in it. And if you don't know Denis Villeneuve, I don't know where you've been living, because he's done Prisoners that came out with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. He's done Sicario with Emily Blunt and Benicio del Toro. He did Arrival last year with Amy Adams. And also he's doing Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford later this year. So I don't know where you're under a rock or not, but Incendies is one of his best films. I actually think this is probably, besides Prisoners, probably my favorite film he's done. And this movie is just a crazy, crazy twist. It starts off in like French Canada. They're looking, this brother and sister are looking for their mother, they're born in the Middle East and has a really crazy past, and there is just plot twist after plot twist as they learn their history, trying to figure out their past. It really revolves around the daughter and also the mother. It goes flat back and forth between the two timelines, trying to figure out, like, piece together this thing that happened. And I really don't want to talk about it too much more, because it's definitely worth an experience. Really riveting kind of mystery that has a really neat twist. So anyways, that's 10 movies that I think you should check out. I apologize again for haven't really posted anything in quite some time, but yeah, just let me know down below any movies that you think that deserve some praise or attention. Comment, like, and share down below. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.